Well, they did treat him differently than other Democrats and Republicans because
Why?
It was the political press. I don't know. They liked him. And they liked having the first African-American president.
Well, somebody who works for the current president is Kellyanne Conway. She's counselor to President Trump. She joins us on this 500th day of his administration from the North Lawn. Kellyanne, good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning. That was awkward.
Now, so there you have Bill Clinton talking about how he felt that Barack Obama got better press because the press liked him.
It's a very awkward moment. Whenever I hear both Clintons and even President Obama occasionally talk, I can't help but think that it's a documentary called Me, Myself, and I. They still just talk about themselves all of the time. They have considerable major platforms to help Americans, if not folks across the globe. We don't hear much from them here about getting involved in issues that are decidedly, I would say, nonpartisan or bipartisan. I'd like to hear from them today on our 500th day of American greatness. Look at these jobs numbers. What I think people weren't ready for with respect to President Obama was Obamacare that has left 30 million Americans without health care. They couldn't keep their plans. They couldn't keep their doctors. This president has turned the poor economic jobs and growth numbers around from the last administration. He inherited an economic mess, and now we have, for only the 7th time since 1970, we have an unemployment rate this low. It is below 4%. It is extraordinary. And by the way, let's just run through a couple of those numbers that President Obama and President Clinton, but particularly President Obama, could never claim. Over 300,000 new manufacturing jobs, over 300,000 new construction jobs, job upticks in mining, job upticks in timber. We have fewer regulations, more optimism, an economy that's absolutely booming, and frankly, more respect on the world stage. The last president was given the Nobel Peace Prize. This president may actually earn it.
Very interesting, fascinating. In that article, and I guess in Ben Rhodes' book, he goes on to say the country wasn't, maybe the country wasn't ready for him. Maybe they'd be more ready for him in 10 years. And that this president, the American people elected a cartoon. What's your reaction to that?
I don't know how you can say a two-term president who governed for 8 years that the country's now not ready for them after almost 10 years after he was first elected. So I'm not sure where that's going, except that it's the normal backward-looking revisionist history of what's happened. It's this president really that's making such great strides in short order. I think what Americans wanted, and what the biggest difference has been, is that you have a businessman in the White House. You have a master negotiator and deal maker and disruptor. And why is that important? Because everybody else has been a politician. And that includes President Obama. He was a state senator, and then he was a senator here. People like that just think very differently. And where he was looked upon as a change maker, yes, we can, hope and change, it's this president who's actually been making major changes. And people who deny the objective economic metrics at this point really sound very petty and very peevish. You have Nancy Pelosi out there just literally every time there's a more positive development economically or internationally, she feels it incumbent to attack it. And I think that's such a bad look, and it also just defies the metrics. I'm sorry, apparently this IFP doesn't like my ear, but so I can't hear you. I hope you can hear me. ISIS has been decimated. On the world stage, you have this president bringing North Korea to the table, going over to Singapore in a week or so's time,
right,
to continue these conversations. You're talking about a 7-week or 7-month effort trying to end, or I think make the conversation closer to ending 70 years of war. And he's also has Japan and China and certainly South Korea involved. So much great has happened, and that's why we're calling this the 500 Days of Greatness. The president himself will talk to grassroots supporters later today, and we'll have the cabinet out and others really trying to connect Americans with the information they need. He'll sign the VA Choice Act into law this week, where veterans will have more opportunity to get uninterrupted medical care. They already have accountability and a Whistleblower Protection Act now at the VA. So many great things have been happening to our veterans. The military got its first pay raise in a very long time. This president has invested in opioids. We'll be releasing the first ads to try to bend that crisis in the right direction this week. So much happening. Mr. Abe will visit this week. So
right.
I don't know what past presidents are thinking and just talking about themselves, frankly, more than trying to use their considerable platforms for good for this country, and we welcome that.
Kellyanne,
give us a call.
Kellyanne, can you hear us?
I can.
All right, so the
Now
president just tweeted 1 minute ago, I want to get to the Mueller investigation because it's the 500th day of his presidency, but we are still many, many days into this Mueller probe as well. He tweets, as has been stated by numerous legal scholars, I have the absolute right to pardon myself, but why would I do that when I have done nothing wrong? In the meantime, the never-ending witch hunt led by 13 very angry and conflicted Democrats and others continue into the midterms. That is something he just tweeted. Also, his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, made the rounds yesterday, and he admits as well that the president probably has the power to pardon himself, but reiterates that he has no intention to do that. Where does this all end, Kellyanne? Because they are pushing hard. They don't want the president to sit down for this interview. They also don't want to have a subpoena. So where do you see this ending?
Well, it ought to end with the report that everybody's being promised. And according to many of the polls, it ought to end fairly quickly. We have respected the process tremendously. This White House could not have been more cooperative. Thousands, if not more, pages of documents have been turned over. Dozens of people have sat for interviews. I'm informed. I read in the press. And this president himself has been very cooperative. But he makes clear every single day through his considerable social media platform where he tells America instantly and simultaneously, everybody hears the information at the same time, how he feels about this investigation. Remember, we were promised Russia collusion, and folks who are still trying to get in his way, look at all this great progress internationally and domestically, still trying to get in his way, are trying to do that, not by attacking the great economy and the great strides internationally, but by trying to attack him and to pretend that somehow he's not going to serve out his 8 years. That's not happening, and so this whole exercise of whether he'll pardon himself is a ridiculous question on its face, because you would pardon yourself if you've done something wrong.
Kellyanne, can I quickly ask, though, about the letter that was leaked out, the letter by his attorneys, and in there's a 20-page letter, and they talk about the fact that President Trump dictated the response from Don Jr., that infamous Trump Tower meeting with the Russian lawyer. Originally, the president said he didn't know about the meeting, and then maybe he was somewhat involved, and now they admit openly in this letter that was leaked that not only did he know about it, that he actually dictated the response. Why give the Mueller team any reason to ask more questions? Why not just come out originally and say this is how it went down?
So I wasn't on that trip. I wasn't involved with that whatsoever, and I only know what I saw yesterday in that letter. So I really can't comment at that. I would refer you to his private counsel to talk about past and, I suppose, current. But again, really, this president sees the frustration that's growing. I saw some polling last week. In fact, the president and I discussed it. The Harvard-Harris poll that's increasingly showing larger numbers of Americans who do feel like this investigation is getting in the way of other things. This president doesn't allow it to get in the way of much. I mean, talk about not being deterred and not being distracted. Look at the jobs numbers. Look at the great 500 days of American greatness, everything that's happened. At the same time, $17 million in to all told for the Mueller investigation, plus other FBI and DOJ activities over years, you have said. Americans have a right to understand, as you ask, where will this end? In other words, I'm sure we'll have updates soon, but this president just continues to forge ahead regardless of what's going on in the investigation.
And he's got 962 days left in his term. Real quickly, we understand that apparently Melania is going to be appearing today at a Gold Star family event there at the White House. But the other part of the news story is that she will not be accompanying the president on the Singapore summit. Is that right?
Yes, that's my understanding. And the Gold Star Family's reception is an annual event here that the President and the First Lady hosted last year as well. It is very moving. This is a President and a First Lady who have continually shown respect, and in the case of the President, raised the pay of our active military. The Gold Star families know the ultimate sacrifice. We are the home of we are the land of the free because of the home of the brave and the sacrifices they've made, and the First Lady and the President intend to honor them tonight at the White House.
Indeed.
All right.
Kellyanne, thank you very much. Congratulations on 500 days.
Yeah, always good to see you, Kellyanne.
Thank you. Take care.